Hi friends, this is Bakappa. In this chapter 5 of Playwright full course, we are going to see how to perform API testing with Playwright. So firstly, we will see how to set up Playwright API testing, and then we will create the first API request, that is post API request using static API request body, and then next we are going to create post API request using Playwright, and also we are using the static JSON file. And next we are going to create the post API request using dynamic API request body. And next we are going to see how to create post API request using dynamic JSON file. And then we will see how to create get API request using Playwright. And also we will see how to pass the query parameters using Playwright. And next we are going to see how to create put API request using Playwright. And then we will see how to create the patch API request. So that's where we are passing the just a partial API request body. And then next we are seeing how to create delete API request in Playwright automation framework. Finally, we will see how to generate Allure report with Playwright. So here we are going to see how to add the screenshot into the Allure report. And also we will be adding the recorded test execution video into the Allure report. And also we are going to add the trace information into the Allure report. So we'll see all those things while discussing the Allure report integration with Playwright. So if you do not know much about the API testing, so you can learn it very easily. So you can go to the youtube.com and here search with API testing by testers talk, and you can go to this playlist and watch out the Postman API testing full course to get the complete idea about the API testing. In this Playwright API testing tutorial, we are going to see how to install Playwright, and next we will see how to get Postman collections in your system. And next I will show you how to get the Playwright API testing tutorial GitHub repository in your system. And we will see how to create post API request using Playwright. And next we are going to see how to validate status code, JSON API response, and also we are going to see how to validate nested JSON objects. Now let's look at the very first point, that is how to install Playwright. So you can create any empty folder in your system. So in my case, I have created one folder called Playwright API testing tutorial. So simply I will open the command prompt here. And to install Playwright, you need to use one command called npm init followed by Playwright @latest. So that's it guys, you can hit the enter. So after entering the npm init followed by Playwright @latest. So it will take some time to install all the plugins libraries. So here guys, installation has started now. So here we have to select JavaScript or TypeScript. So let's select the JavaScript. So we are using a JavaScript to write the automation test. So next you need to say where you want to save the automation test. Here you can say that tests folder only, and whether you want to add GitHub actions to this particular framework or not. So as of now, I don't want to add it, so I will keep false only. And here, whether you want to install the browsers or not. So I don't want to install the browsers as of now. So that's the reason here I'll say no. So because we are going to see how to test the REST APIs using Playwright. So we are not focusing on the web application testing. So that's the reason I don't want to install the browsers. So that's it guys. So it is installation has started if you look at here, and that's it. So once the installation is completed guys, you can simply go to the VS Code and open the folder where you have installed the Playwright. So you can go to the file, and here you can select the open folder, and simply I'm selecting the folder where I have installed the Playwright. So here I'm selecting Playwright API testing tutorial folder, and that's it guys. So we will come back to this VS Code a bit later. Now let's see how to get the Postman collections in your system. So for this particular Playwright API testing full course, so you need to get the booking API Postman collections, guys. So you can go to the youtube.com and here you can search with Postman collections by tester stock. And here you will get the very first video. So it is just a 2 minutes video, guys. Here I have showed how to get the Postman collections in your system. So once you refer this 2 minutes video, you will get to know how to get the Postman collections in your system. So that's all about the how to get the Postman collections in your system. And next we are going to see how to get the Playwright API testing GitHub repository. You can go to the google.com and here search with buckupy and GitHub. And here you can go to the very first link, tester stock buckupy. And in this GitHub page, you can go to the repositories section and here search with Playwright API testing. And once you search with these keywords, and you will get the one repository, Playwright API testing tutorial, and simply you can clone the repository by using this URL. Now let's see how to create post API request using static API request body in Playwright. Firstly, we will see the manual scenario, then we will go to the VS Code and we will automate the scenario. So in this booking API collection, so we are using API called create booking. So after making the API call here, so we are getting the status code as 200 and we are getting the JSON API response, right? And coming to the API details, so here we are using the HTTP method as a post, and after that we are using this particular URL and we are specifying the API request body. And that's it, we are making the API call and we are getting the API response, right? So we will see how to validate status code and also we will see how to validate JSON API response body, and also we will see how to validate nested JSON objects. So firstly, I will take this base URL. So we have to specify the base URL in the Playwright configuration file. So here you can open the playwright.config.js file and you can go to the line number 28. So here you have to add the base URL of the API. So that's it, guys. So we have added the base URL. Now let's quickly create the one spec file under the tests folder. So here I'll say post underscore API underscore request underscore 01 dot spec dot js. So that's it. So here let me list down what are the steps we are going to do it in few minutes. So firstly we are going to load the Playwright module, and after that we are going to write a test, and then so we are going to create a post API request. Then we are going to validate the status code, and then we will see how to validate a JSON API response, and at the end we are going to see how to validate nested JSON objects. So these are the high level steps, guys, what we are going to do it in few minutes. So let's load the Playwright module first. So here you need to write the required, and inside the required simply you need to specify the @playwright/test. Then we need to assign back to the constant objects. The very first object is test and the second one is expect. That's it, guys. So this is how we load the Playwright module. Sorry, guys. Now let's start writing the test by using the test object. So here I will say test, and inside the test we have to pass two parameters. One is test name and another one is async function. So here I'll say async function. So here I'll say arrow function and followed by that I'm specifying open and close flower braces. That's it, guys. So let's add the test name here. So here I'll say create post API request using static request body. That's it, guys. And also we have to pass the one object inside the async function. The object name is, so here I'm writing two flower brackets, open and close flower brackets. That means an object. So inside this one, we have to write the request. So by using this request object, so we can make the API calls. It can be post call, get call, or it can be the put call, patch call, or delete call as well. So now we have the Playwright model in the current JS class, and as well as we have the sample test also we have in the current JS class. Now let's use the request object. By using this object, we can create the post API call. So before we use any Playwright commands, we have to use the one keyword called await, and followed by that I'm using the request dot post. And inside this, so here we have to pass two parameters. One is, firstly here we have to pass the URL, and followed by that we can pass the headers, parameters, and also we can pass the API request body. So in our case, we have to pass this particular URL. So already we have specified base URL in the configuration file. So that's the reason we have to pass the slash booking. So simply I will pass the slash booking here. And after that, so here we have to pass the object. So we can pass headers object. We can pass the API request body. Also we can pass the parameters. To pass the API request body, so simply you need to write the data colon. That's it, guys. Simply you can open and close the flower braces. That means, so this is one object here. So inside this one, we have to pass the API request body. So simply I will go to the Postman and I will copy this entire JSON object and I'll paste it here. And here I will add the first name as tester stock Playwright. And in the similar way, I will add the last name as tester stock API testing. So that's it, guys. So we are ready with the API call now. So after making the API call, so we will get the response. So that's the reason I will assign back to the one constant variable called post API response. That's it, guys. So by using this post API response variable, so simply I will print the JSON API response by using the console.log. So here I will say, so to get this particular API response, so here I'm using the one keyword called await. So I will wait until I get the API response. So simply I will use the variable post API response dot. So here I'll say JSON. So this JSON will gives me the API response body as the return value. Then simply I will assign back to the constant variable called post API response body. That's it, guys. So simply I will print this particular response body by using the console.log. So that's it, guys. Now we have the test ready. Let me summarize what we have done so far. So in this booking API collection, we are using create booking API. So that is making the post API call. And so after taking the base URL, so we have copied this particular base URL and we have added inside the Playwright configuration file here. And after that, we have created a simple spec file. And then we have created the simple test. And after that, by using the request object, so here we are making the post API call by adding the static API request body. And finally, we are printing the post API response body in the console by using the console.log statement. So now the test is ready. Let's run the test and we will validate it. whether it is running properly or not. And if you see here guys, so our test is getting passed, and also we are able to see the API response body is getting printed on the output also. And if you see the Postman also, so we are getting the same API response, right guys? So we are getting the booking ID, and also we are getting the all the booking details. So far you have seen how to get Postman collections and how to get the Playwright API testing GitHub repository, and also you have seen how to create post API request using Playwright. Now we will see how to validate status code, JSON API response, and also we will see how to validate nested JSON object. So here I will go to the VS Code, and so firstly let's validate the status code. So simply I will take all these steps whatever I have listed, and I'll put it inside the test now. So this one I will add it in the top. So that's it guys. So firstly we will validate the status code. So status code we can validate by using the post API response variable guys, because we cannot verify the status code by using the post API response body. So we can validate status code by using the post API response variable. So we can validate any data that is expected and actual value by using the expect keyword. So here I'm using expect keyword, and inside this, so simply I'm using the variable called post API response. So here I'm using the post API call response. By using that, so we are going to validate the first OK as the from the API response. So if you look at this API call, so here we are getting two data. One is OK, and after that we are getting the another one, the code, that's the 200. So first we will validate the OK, then we will validate the 200 from the API response. So simply here I will say post API response dot OK. That's it. So this is a method guys. And after that, so simply I will check whether it is equal to be truthy or not. That's it. So basically this will gives us the API response, and basically we are checking whether it is this particular value is to be truthy or not. So by using this statement, we can validate this particular API is returning OK status or not. So in the similar way, we can even validate the status code as 200. So here after the response, so simply here I'm calling to the method called status. So let me remove this to be truthy. So here I'm using the status API response dot status, and this is a method guys. And after that we are going to use the to be method. So inside the to be method, so we are passing the expected value. So in our case, so this particular API response should return as the 200 as the value. So that's it guys, it's very simple now. Now I will run the test, and our test should get passed. So because we are getting the proper status code from the API response. And if you see here guys, our test got passed, and also let's look at the output. So it's able to print the API response as well, and also our test is getting passed, right? So that means, so we are getting the appropriate status code, and also we are getting the OK as the API response. Now let's see how to validate the JSON API response, and also we will see how to validate nested JSON objects. So if we look at the Postman, so here we are getting the data in the JSON API response. So under the booking objects, we have the first name, last name, total price. So there are many other details available. So let's validate first name and last name from the JSON API response. So it is very simple guys. Again, we have to use the expect keyword. So by using expect keyword, we can assert the actual value and expected value. So here what I will do is simply I will use the expect keyword, and inside this, so here I'm using the variable. So basically this particular data, say for example I want to get the first name. So this is the API response body, guys, right? So that's the reason. So already we are printing the API response body in the line number 26. So that's the reason simply I will take that variable. So this particular variable contains the JSON API response. So inside this API response, and if you see the first name value is present inside the booking object. So that's the reason I need to switch into the booking object. After that, sorry guys, so here you need to say dot and you need to add the object name. And then we can call to the one method called to have property. That's it. And here we have to specify the key and value. So in our case, right guys, so we want to validate whether first name we are getting the tester stock Playwright, and also we want to validate last name we are getting the tester stock API testing. So basically we want to validate these two field values. So simply you can specify the firstly field name, comma, and then you can specify the respective value. So in the similar way, we will add the last name assertion also. So firstly, we are validating the first name and then we are validating the last name. So simply I will specify the last name, key and the respective value. So simply I will put the comma here. That's it guys. So we have written the validation to validate the JSON API response. So I will run the test. So in this case, our test will pass and we will try to pass the incorrect expected value. And in that case, our test will get failed. So right now our test is getting passed, right? So I will go back to the test and here this is the expected value guys, right? So let's say if I just remove something API in between. So if I save the test, so this time the actual value what we are getting from the API and the expected value will not match. In this case, our test will get failed. And if you see here guys, so our test is getting failed at line number 31. And also here you can see that. So this is the expected value, but we are receiving the different value. So that's the reason our test is getting failed. So this is how you can assert the JSON API response. Now let's see how to validate the nested JSON objects. So if you look at the API response guys here, so we have under the booking object, we have another object called booking dates also, right? So we will see how to validate the check-in date and also we will see how to validate checkout date. So it is very simple guys. So right now we are validating the first name. So that's the reason we switched into the booking object and we are validating the first name and last name. And if you are validating the nested JSON objects, so in our case, we are going to validate the booking dates. So that's the reason. Firstly, we have to switch into the booking object. And after that, we need to switch into the booking dates. Then we can assert the check-in date and also we can assert the checkout date. So let's do this particular thing by going to the VS Code now. So simply I will copy the above code, whatever we have written for the assertion of API response. So as I said, so firstly, let's validate the check-in date. So we have already switched into the booking object. Now let's add the another object called booking dates. So simply I will say dots, and after the dot, I'm adding the booking dates. And also I will add the same object for the line number 35 as well. We are going to validate the checkout date also. And coming to the property guys. So here we have to specify the key and the respective value. So let's add the key and respective value from the API request only. So simply I will go here and I'll copy this API request data because the same data what we are getting in the API response. Then I will put the comma and then similar way I will copy the checkout date also. That's it guys. So basically here you need to separate key and value by using comma. So that's it, guys. It's very simple. So if you are having n number of objects also, similar way, you need to switch into the particular object and you can specify the followed by that you can specify the key and the value. So that's it, guys. So now I will run the test and our test should get passed. So because everything is working in this automation test, and if you see here, guys, our test is getting passed, and also here we can see the booking ID. So booking got created, and also here you can see that one test is passed. So far you have seen how to set up Playwright API testing, and also you have seen how to create the first API request in Playwright. In this Playwright API testing tutorial, we are going to see how to create post API request using static JSON file. So in the sense, if I go to the Postman, so we will be creating a simple JSON file and we will keep this request body in the JSON file. And by using that JSON file, how we can create the API request in Playwright. So let's navigate to the VS Code and we will create a simple JSON file. So we will keep this request body in that JSON file. Then we will see how to create the automation test by using that JSON file. So here I'm creating one folder called test-data, and inside the test-data folder, I'm creating a one JSON file. So here I'll say post request body.json. That's it. So simply I will go to the Postman tool and I will copy the API request body and I'll paste it inside the post request body.json file. So that's it, guys. So now I will close the JSON file. Now let's create a quickly one spec file. So simply I will copy the post API request 01 spec file and I'll paste it inside the tests folder. And here I will rename the file name as post API request 02.spec.js. So that's it, guys. So firstly, I will update the test name as create post API request using static JSON file. So that's it, guys. Now, so previously we were passing the API request body directly in the automation code. But this time we are going to read the API request body from the JSON file and we are going to pass it here in this data section. So that's it, guys. So what I will do is now, so we have to read this particular JSON file and we have to pass on to the data object, right? So reading this JSON file is very easy, guys. So what you can do is simply we can use the required. Inside the required, simply we have to pass the path of the JSON file. So here I'll say test data slash we have the post request underscore body dot JSON file. And once we get this particular location, the data, so we have to assign back to the one constant variable. So here I'll say booking details. Here I'll say instead of booking details, here I'll say booking API request body. That's it, guys. So by using this statement, so we are able to read the this particular JSON file which contains the API request body. Now by using this variable booking API request body, so I can get the all the data which is there inside this particular JSON file, right? So simply I will use this particular variable inside the our post method. So simply I will pass the that particular object here. That's it, guys. So it is very simple. So let me summarize what I have done so far. So firstly, we have created a test-data folder and inside that we have created one JSON file and we have added the API request body inside the JSON file. And then here we have created a simple, sorry guys, let me rename this particular spec file. So it should be dot spec.js file. So here we have created a one spec file called post API request 02.spec.js file. And here, so firstly, we are reading the JSON file, which contains the API request body. And once we read that particular data file, so we are storing that into the variable. Simply I'm passing that variable into the our post API request. That's it, guys. So let me summarize what exactly this test is doing here also. So firstly, we are creating the post API request, and then we are validating the status code. And so after validating the status code, so by using the API response, so simply we are getting the JSON API response body. So by using this JSON API response body, so we are validating the first name, last name, and also we are validating the check-in and checkout date from the this particular API response, guys. So we are validating first name, last name, and we are validating the check-in date and checkout date. So that's it, guys. Now let's run the test, and our test should work fine. And if you see here, guys, so we are able to create the booking, and here we got the booking ID, and also here we can see that our test is getting passed. So far you have seen how to set up Playwright API testing framework, and also you have seen how to create post API request by using static API request body. And also we have seen how to create the post API request by using the JSON file. In this Playwright API testing tutorial, so we are going to see how to create post API request by using the dynamic API request body. So before we get into this session, guys, so you need to install two plugins. One is you need to install the faker-js, and second one is you need to install the Luxon. So simply you can open the command prompt and you can enter the npm install @faker-js/faker-save-dev. So you can use this particular command to install the faker.js plugin. So we are using this particular plugin to generate the test data. For example, first name, last name, some random numbers. So those kind of things can be generated by using the faker.js plugin. And you need to install the second plugin called Luxon. So you can use npm followed by that install --save and Luxon. So once the installation is completed, guys, so this particular Luxon plugin we are using to generate the custom dates. So you can get all these commands in my GitHub repository also. So you can go to the README section here. So here I have listed the command name. The first one is faker-js plugin, and second plugin is Luxon to generate the custom dates. Once the plugin installation is done, guys, now let's go to the VS Code now. So we are going to create the post API request by using the dynamic API request body. So I will create a quickly one spec file. Simply I will copy the post API request one spec file, and I'll paste it here. Then I will rename the file name as post API request 3, and then I'll say .spec.js. So that's it. So here I will update the test name as create post API request using dynamic request body. So that's it, guys. So as I said, to generate the test data, it can be first name, last name, some random numbers. So we have to install the faker-js plugin. To use the functions from the faker-js, so firstly we have to import the faker.js library in the current JavaScript class. So that's the reason here I'll say import, and here I will add the object from, and in the single quotation I will say @faker-js/faker. Then I will assign back to the one object called faker. So that's it, guys. In the similar way, so we can include the Luxon model in the current JavaScript file. To include the Luxon model, so simply you can use the required, and inside the required, so you can specify the just Luxon, and you can assign back to the one constant object called datetime. So here I'll say date time. That's it, guys. So let me summarize what exactly this test is doing right now. So we will update this particular test and we'll make working this test. And also we are going to see how we can create the post API request by using the dynamic request body. And if you see here in the line number 12 to line number 22, we have added the API request body. That is a hard coded value what we have added it, right? So we want to pass the dynamic data for the first name, last name, total price, and also we are going to pass the check-in date and checkout date. So all these values will be passing the dynamic values, right? So by using these two plugins, we are going to generate the some dynamic data. By using those data, we can pass on to the our API request body. That's it, guys. And after that, if you look at in the down, so we are validating the status code and we are validating the API response, and also we are validating the nested JSON objects. So we will come back to this particular validation bit later, guys. So now let's generate the test data. So firstly, we will generate the first name, last name, total price. And after that, we will generate the check-in date and checkout date by using the Luxon plugin. So let's generate the first name. So as I said, by using the faker-js plugin, we can generate the any random data or dynamic data. So simply you can use the faker dot person, and here you can simply say that first name. So this will returns me the first name. So any random data it is going to return us. Then I'm assigning back to the one constant variable called first name. In the similar way, I will create the last name, and also we are going to create the, so here I'll say variable name as last name, and here I'm calling to the method called dot last name. That's it, guys. Now let's generate the total price. So you can generate the any random number. So here I'm just specifying the faker dot number. So here I'll say just int, and inside the int I'm passing some data, means I'm entering some random number. So my value will be within the 1000. So what it is going to return us. So I will assign back to the constant variable as total price. So that's it, guys. So if you want the bigger value, you can specify 10,000. So that this particular method is going to return us the integer number within the 10,000 value. So now we are able to generate the first name, last name, and total price, right? And also we have to generate the check-in date and checkout date by using the Luxon library, right? So here what I will do is simply I will use the datetime dot. Here I'm calling to the one method called now. So by using this now, I can get the today's date, and also I need to format the today's date into the month, date, and year, like that, right? So here we are going to pass the format also to format. So by using this method, we can pass the in which format data we want it. So I want it firstly year, and then month, and after that we need the date. So this will returns me the one date, that is the today's date, in this particular format. Then I will assign back to the constant variable called check-in date. That's it, guys. So this is a check-in date, and also we have to generate the one more called checkout date also, right? So I will take the same data. Sorry, here I'll say, here I will just simply copy the same statement and I will update the variable name as checkout. And after adding the today's date, right? Say for example, I want to add a plus 5 days to the current date. Say for example, today date is 6th. I want to add the plus 5 days. It will be 11, right? So that's the reason. Firstly, I will get the today's date by using datetime.now. And then here I'm calling to the method called plus. And inside the plus, simply here we have to pass the object. How many days you want to add it? Plus means it is an addition. So that's the reason. Here we have to pass the number of days you want to add it. So let's add it 5. So today date is 6. So the check-in date will be 6 and we will get the checkout date as the 11. That's it, guys. Now we are able to generate the all the test data: first name, last name, total price, check-in date, checkout date. Now let's use all this data inside the our API request. So here I will pass the first name and then I will pass the last name and then we will pass the total price, and let's pass the check-in date inside the booking dates, and then finally we will pass the checkout date. That's it, guys. So this is all about the test data generation, how we can use it in the API request body. And if I come down, guys, so after validating the status code, we are also validating the API response also, right? So here also we have to pass the appropriate expected value. So firstly here we are validating the first name. So I will pass the first name and also I will pass the last name, and then I will pass the check-in date and I will pass the checkout date. So that's it, guys. We are done with creating the script. So let me summarize what we have done so far. So firstly, we have installed two plugins called, one is Faker-JS and the second one is Luxon. Faker-JS is for creating the test data and Luxon is for creating the custom dates. By using those plugins, we are generating the test data. So this is a dynamic test data. So every time it is going to generate the different first name, last name, and the number, check-in date, and checkout date, all those things based on the condition what we have added. And by using all this test data, so here we are creating the post API request, and inside this data object, we are passing all the data, dynamic data in the API request. And finally, we are validating the status code and API response. That's it, guys. Now let's run the test. So it is taking a little bit of time. Let's wait for some time. So if you look at this particular test, guys, our test is working perfectly fine. And if you see the output, our test is getting passed. So this is how you can create the post API request using dynamic API request body. In this Playwright API testing tutorial, we are going to see how to create post API request using dynamic JSON file in Playwright. So let's navigate to the VS Code. So firstly, we will create a JSON file which has the dynamic format of API request body. So inside the test-data folder, I'm creating one file called post underscore dynamic underscore API. Sorry. So here I'll say post dynamic request body. Then after that, I'll say JSON. So that's it, guys. So here I will go back to the post request body file and simply I will take the API request body and I'll come back to the post dynamic request body file, and here I'll add the API request body. Say for example, you can pass all the data, whatever you are seeing in this request body, you can pass all the data at the runtime. You can create and pass the test data at the runtime. So here I want to pass only first name, last name, and additional needs. So I'm going to pass the three parameters at the runtime. So here I will, so wherever I want to pass the data at runtime, so those fields I will pass the value as flower brackets. Within flower brackets, simply I'm adding the index numbers. So this is the first parameter, first name. And next I want to pass the last name. So here I'll say within the flower bracket, I'll say 1. And then I'll say the third field is additional needs. So here I'll say the 2 as the index value within the flower brackets. So you can basically say, for example, if you want to pass the runtime data for the check-in and checkout also. So there you can simply pass the, within flower bracket, you can pass the index number. So based on that, you can update the request body at the runtime. And then we can create the required API call. So this is all about creating the dynamic API request body. Now let's quickly create one simple function that will help us in formatting the original string and also list of parameter values. So for example, I want to pass the data, first name, last name, and additional names. So after passing all those data, I should have the one final data, that's the JSON object, right? Like this. So that's the reason I'm going to create a one simple function that will does that particular functionality. So here I'm creating one folder called utils. Under utils, I'm creating a one JS file called common.js. That's it. So here I'll copy and paste one simple function. You can go to my GitHub repository, and in the repositories section, you can search with CRM. So here you will find the one repository called Microsoft D365 CRM Playwright Framework. You can go inside this repository. Under the utils folder, we have a one file called common.js. And if you look at this very first function in the line number 8 and 9, so we have the one exportable function called string format. So which will accept the one string as an argument, and then it will accept the list of arguments. And if you look at the string replace function, so here we have written a simple lambda expression. So wherever we are seeing the flower bracket within the index, within that, if we are finding the index number, so simply we are replacing that value, and finally string format will returns the final updated string based on the original string and the list of values. So simply I will copy this particular function, and I will come back to the VS Code and I'll paste it here. So that's it, guys. So it is very simple. So this will accept the original string. That means we are going to pass this particular string, and after that, wherever we want to update, for example, first name, I want to update it. So list of values I'll be passing over to this particular string format function. So this is all about the test data creation and the simple function creation. So that is going to help us in creating the runtime API request body. So now let's quickly create a one simple spec file inside the tests folder. So simply I will copy the API request. So simply I will copy this one of the spec file, that is a post API request 02 spec file, and I'll paste it inside the tests folder, and then I will rename the file with post API request 04.spec.js. So that's it. And here I will update the test name first. So here I'll say create post API request using dynamic JSON file. So that's it, guys. Now what we have to do is, firstly we have to read this particular JSON file. So if you look at in the line number 4, so we are reading the other JSON file, this one. Now let's read our latest created post dynamic request body JSON file. So simply I will add the file name here at the end. So already we have written the statement, and then I will specify the file name here. So that's it, guys. So this particular variable booking API request body holds the dynamic API request body right now. So once I'm having the original string, so that means the data from the JSON file. So simply I will call to this particular string format method. To use this particular function in my current spec file, so we have to import the common JS file. Within this we have the string function. So that's the reason I will import it by using the import statement. So here I'll say string format. So that's it, guys. Then you can say import from the utils-common. So in this particular common JS class, we have the function called string format. So this is accepting the one original string, and also it is accepting the list of arguments. So right now we have the original string is ready, and we have to pass the runtime data. So that is a first name, last name, and additional names. So these data we have to pass it at the runtime. Then it is going to return us the final string from the string format. Then we can use that particular final string for the post function. Post API call. So here I will start using the string format function. And for that function, we have to pass the first one is original string. So what I will do is, so this particular variable is holding the original string, in the sense original API request body. That means we have created a dynamic request body. So that data is present inside the booking API response body, request body. So I will take this particular variable and I will convert this particular JSON object into the string by using the json.stringify. And inside this one, I will pass the JSON object, whatever we have read it from this particular JSON file. And after that, so this is a one parameter. This is the original string what we are passing it. Now we have to pass the rest of the string data. So firstly, we have to pass the, so if you look at this JSON file, firstly, we have to pass the first name. Second parameter is the last name. And third parameter is additional needs. So here I will go to the again spec file. So let's pass the first name as tester stock. Here I'll say Cypress. And then I will say the last name as tester stock JavaScript. And I will say the last parameter, that is additional needs. So here I'll pass the value as Apple. That's it, guys. So this particular string format function, what it does, it will takes the original string and it gives the updated string, whatever the values we here we have passed it. So that particular function will accept this list of values and it will update the original string and it returns back the another updated string. So that's the reason here I will save that string into the one variable called, here I'll say dynamic request body. Sorry guys, yeah, that's it. So now, so once we are having the dynamic request body, simply we have to pass this particular object into the our post call. So simply I will take this particular string. So we have to convert this string into the JSON object. So that's the reason what I will do here is, so inside the data object, so simply I'm converting our string into the JSON object by using json.parse. Inside the parse, simply I'm passing the dynamic request body. So this is the updated request body what we have based on the parameters data what we are passing over here, and by considering the our dynamic request body JSON file, right? So that's it, guys. Now, so if I come down, so this code will work fine because we are validating the status code, and after that we are simply printing the API response body. And finally here we are validating the first name, last name, and we are validating the check-in date and checkout date. So let's add the proper values over here. So here we have to add the first name and last name. So whatever we are passing above here, simply here we have to pass the first name first, and secondly we have to pass the second name also, sorry, last name also. And also we have to verify the check-in date and checkout dates are appropriately added. So here it is the 2018 11 and 2019 11. So let me cross check these values. So here also it is a proper, so that is fine, guys. So let me summarize what we have done so far. So firstly we have created the one JSON file which is a dynamic JSON file, so which will accept where we can pass the runtime data and we can update it, and then we can convert into the JSON object we can pass on to the post API call. So this is a JSON file what we have created, and after that we have created a simple command.js file, and inside this we have implemented one simple function. So that will take care of the original string, and it is going to update the string based on the number of parameters and the data based on the index what we specified in the JSON file. And after that we have created a simple spec file, and here we are simply making the post API call, and within that, so we are getting the dynamic request body by using the string format. So that's it, guys. It's very simple. So after making the post API call, here we are validating the status code and the API response. So that's it, guys. Now let me run the Playwright test. So if you see here, guys, our test is working fine. So let me open the output also. And if you see here, guys, so we got the unique booking ID. And if you see the first name, so this is what the particular name what we have passed at the runtime, what we have created the first name and last name also you can check it. So we are getting the proper values, and also here we can see the additional needs also we have updated, right? So we have provided the Apple as the data, right? So if you pass different data also, let's say this time I will pass orange. So if I run the test, so it is going to create the runtime API request body, and finally it will makes the post API call. If you see here guys, so we are able to create the booking, and then you can observe the additional needs value. So right now orange is coming, right? So this is how you can create the dynamic API request body, and then you can make the required API call using Playwright. So far you have seen how to set up Playwright API testing in your system, and also you have seen how to create the post API request by using the JSON file, and without using the JSON file also we have created the post API request. And in this Playwright API testing tutorial we are going to see how to create get API request using Playwright. So firstly we will see the manual scenario. So here I will go to the Postman. So firstly we are going to create the booking, and after creating the booking, here we are getting the 200 as a status code, and in the API response body we are getting the booking ID, unique ID. So by using this ID, so here we have the another API called get booking details. So if I click on the send, and it is going to get the booking details whatever we have just now created by using the post API call. And if you look at the get method URL, so here we have parameterized booking ID. So we already know how to create the post API request, that means how to create a booking. Now we will see how to create the get API request, where we will pass the booking ID. By using the booking ID we will get all the details, and we will verify whether we are getting the 200 status code or not for the get API call. So here I will navigate to the VS Code, and here I am creating one quickly spec file. So here I will rename the file name as get API request 05.spec.js. So that's it. And here I will rename the test name as create get API request in Playwright. So that's it guys. So if I run this particular test, right guys, so it is going to create the one booking, and also it is going to print us the API, sorry, it is going to print us the all the booking details. So if you see here, so our test got passed. Let me open the output, and here, so we are getting the booking ID. By using this booking ID, we should be able to check whether we are able to create the resources in the application server or not by using the get API call. So it is very simple guys, creating the get API call in Playwright. So what I will do is, so simply I will use the our request object. By using this request object, so here I'm simply calling to the method called get. So inside the get, so here we have to pass the firstly URL. So if you look at the Postman, so we have to pass the /booking/booking ID. So booking ID we have to get it from the previous APIs guys. So if you see here, so right now we have passed the /booking/. So here we have to pass the booking ID. So that's the reason. If you look at the output, so already we are able to get the API response body, and that we have to save that into the one of the variable, and we can pass that variable wherever it is required, so that we can read the booking ID. Now let's see how to get this particular booking ID. So you can just copy the key name. So by using this key name we can get the booking ID. So this is where exactly we are getting the post API response body. By using this variable we can get the booking ID. So here I'll say post API response body dot, simply I will specify the key name booking ID. So if you look at the Postman also, in the create booking API, so booking ID is the key that contains the booking ID, and I will assign back to the one constant variable called BID. So that means the booking ID. So that's it guys. Now we have the booking ID. So I will take this booking ID. So you can pass on to the get function that particular booking ID. So by specifying the dollar and within the flower brackets, you can specify the variable name. So here I will prefix this playwright command with the await keyword. And after that, I will assign this particular API response back to the one constant variable called get API response. So that's it, guys. So this particular statement will make the get API call with the booking ID, and then it will return back as the API response. That means the booking details. Now let's try to print the get API response body. So here I will use the one simple console dot log dot. Sorry. So simply I'm using the console dot log statement. Inside that I'm writing await followed by the variable dot. So here I'm saying JSON. So this will returns me the API response body. And before that, we are going to print one simple. Before we make this API call, get API call, I'm printing the one log statement so that we can differentiate both the outputs. The output which is printing from the post API response, the output which is printing from the get API response. So that's it, guys. Now I will execute this API test, and we will come back to this particular test, and we will add the validation for the status code. So I will run the test. So it should create the booking first, and also it should check the whether we are able to create the new resource in the server or not by using the get API call. And if you see here, guys, so this particular statement, what we are getting it from the post API response body, and also we got the API response for the get API call also. So whatever the API request created, so that details are coming in the get API call also, in the get API request call. So if you see here, guys, so we have created a booking by using all these details. The first name is tester stock Cypress, and if you see in the response also in the get API call, so we are able to see the first name as tester stock Cypress. So our test is working as expected. Now let's validate the, so here I'll say get API call, and now let's validate the status code. So it is very simple, guys. So we have to use the expect keyword, and inside the expect keyword, so I will take the get API response variable by using this. So firstly, let's verify the OK, and here I'll call to the method called to be truthy. So here we are validating whether we are getting OK from the application server or not. And after that, we are going to assert the status code 200. So here I will take the get API response variable by using this. So here I'm calling to the method called status. And after that, once we get the status from the API, so simply here I'm calling to the another method called to be. So inside this, simply I'm passing the 200 as the status code. So if you look at the Postman also, in this get API call, get booking details, we are getting the 200 as a status code in the response, and also we are getting the OK as the response. So that's the reason we are validating OK and status code. Now let's run the test, guys. So our test should get passed. So there are no issues in this automation test right now. So if you see here, guys, our test is getting passed. So if I open the output, here also you can see that our test is getting passed. So far you have seen how to set up Playwright API testing, and also you have seen how to create post API request with static API request body, and also we have discussed how to create post API request using dynamic API request body. In this Playwright API testing tutorial, we are going to see how to pass the query parameters in Playwright API testing. So here I will go to the VS Code, and I will create a simple spec file. So here I'll say query underscore parameters underscore 06 dot spec.js. So that's it. So here I will go to the get API request spec file. Simply I will copy the API test and I'll paste it here in the query parameters spec file. So let me explain you what exactly this test is doing. And before that, let me update the test name. So here I'll say query parameters in Playwright. So that's it, guys. Now let me explain you what exactly this test is doing. So firstly, we are creating a booking. So if we look at this particular line, in the line number 14, we are making the post API call by using the dynamic request body. So once we create a booking, so we are validating the status code and also we are validating the JSON API response here. And after creating the booking, so by using the get API call, so we are checking whether that booking ID is present in the application server or not by passing the booking ID here. And if you look at in the line number 25, so this is where exactly we are getting the booking ID from the post API response. So here we are passing the booking ID by using this. So we are getting the booking details. And after that, we are checking whether we are getting the OK. And also we are verifying we are getting the 200 or not. So that is all about the post API call to make the, that means we are creating the booking. So get API call, we are checking whether created resource details are present in the application server or not. So now what we will do is, so by passing the query parameters, for example, so if you look at this particular data request body, so here we are passing the first name and last name, and also we are passing the additional needs, right? So here I will just pass the first name and last name. By passing these parameters, so I will check whether my resource details are present in the application server or not. That means, so basically I'm passing the set of fields. So I can just pass the first name and I can check whether resource details are present with the this particular first name or not, right? So you can pass the query parameters. So let me remove this time booking ID. So previously we were checking the booking details by the booking ID. Now this time, so we will pass the query parameters. So here simply you need to pass the one object called params. Inside the params, so here we have to pass the fields. So you can pass, it can be first name or last name. You can pass any of the field, guys. So right now I will pass the first name and last name, and respective value also I will pass it whether by passing those details. So I will check whether my resource details are present in the application server or not. So simply I will go here and I will pass first name and also I will pass the last name. So here you have to provide the colon, and in between the field and value you need to provide the colon, guys. So you can pass just first name. So in my case I'm passing two parameters. You can pass multiple parameters as well, right, guys? So by using the post API call, so we are creating the resources in the application server, and after that by using the get API call, so where we are passing the query parameters, by using the query parameters we are checking whether resource details are present in the application server or not. So that's it, guys. I will run the test and our test should get passed. So we will do a little bit modification once the test got passed. So if you look at the output, guys, so this particular response what we are getting it from the post API call. So we are just printing on the output, and this is what the output we got it from the get API call. So it is saying that it is returning the booking ID. Already we have created a booking with these details, and we are passing the query parameter first name equal to tester stock Cypress, and also we are passing the last name as tester stock JavaScript, right? So now we are passing the proper details, first name and last name, correct details. So that's the reason we are getting the all the output correctly from the application server. So for example, if I pass incorrect details, so here I'll pass some data in the first name, and in the last name also I will pass the some data. So if I run the test, so our test will get failed in the get API call. because we will be not able to find the resource details in the application servers with this particular details. And if you see here guys, so with that particular first name and last name, so we are not finding any data. So this is a dummy API, so still it is returning us the correct response, in the sense we are getting the OK response, and also we are getting the 200 as the status code from the get API call. So that's the reason our test is getting passed. So this is the expected result. Here we can pass the only one parameter also. So still our test will get the appropriate booking ID. So in this case, what I will do is, so simply I will pass the only first name. So in our case, first name is tester stock Cypress. So by passing the single parameter also, query parameter also, I can get the respective booking ID. So I will run the test. So our test is getting passed. And if you see here guys, so this particular booking what we have created, so booking ID is 2077. And if you see here guys, whatever we have passed the query parameters, for that we have the three booking IDs. One of them is 2077, 765, 1413, because there might be already resources created previously. So those booking IDs we are getting it in this get API call response. So this is how we can pass the query parameters in Playwright API testing. In the previous Playwright API testing tutorial, you have seen how to pass query parameters in Playwright. In this API testing tutorial, we are going to see how to create put API request in Playwright. So let's see the firstly manual scenario, then we will automate it using Playwright. So here I will go to the Postman tool. So firstly, we will create the booking. And by using this booking ID, so we are going to update the booking details in the server. So before we update the booking details, so we need the token. So that's the reason we have to generate the token by using the Post API call. So if you see here, so we are getting the token ID, and I will go to the update booking API, and in the header we are passing the token number whatever we are generating in the previous token generator API, and also we are passing the booking ID. So we want to update that particular booking details. So that's the reason we are passing the booking ID in the URL, and we are hitting this API. Then we are getting the response as the 200 status code, and also we are getting the all the booking details, that is the latest booking details. So let's automate this particular scenario. So I will go to the VS Code now, and here I'm creating one spec file called put underscore API underscore request underscore 06 dot. So here I'll say 07 dot spec dot js. So that's it. So here I will go to the get API request, and simply I will copy the whole test, and I'll paste it inside the put API request. So firstly I will update the test name. So here I'll say create put API request in Playwright. So let me explain you what exactly we are doing in this API test. So firstly we are reading the JSON file, and we are creating the runtime API request body by using the dynamic request body. So here we are making the post API call. So this is where exactly we are creating the booking, and after that we are validating the status code. And in the line number 25, so we are getting the booking ID. So by using this booking ID, we can check whether booking details are present in the application server or not in the next APIs. And after that, we are validating the API response, that is the whether we have created a successfully booking or not. So we are validating all those API response body. And then, so we are making the get API call. So this is where we are passing the booking ID. By using the booking ID, we are checking whether booking details are present in the application server or not by asserting the status code. So that's it, guys. So here we have to generate the firstly token. Here I'll say generate token, and after that we have to create the put API call. So let's generate the firstly token. To generate the token, guys, so we have to create the post API request call. So that's the reason what I will do is, so simply I will take this particular API request body and I will go to the test-data folder, and here I'm creating one JSON file. Here I'll say put underscore request underscore body dot JSON. So let me update the file name. So that's it. So here I will add the token generator API request body. So we know already how to read the JSON file. So here I will go back to the put API request. So firstly I will read this particular JSON file. By using this API request body, so I will create the post API call, then I will get the token number. By using this token number, we can update the booking details in the application server. So here I'll say required. Inside the required, so here we have to pass the location of the JSON file. So here I'll say test data slash. So we have the one JSON file called put request body JSON file. So this is where exactly we have added the token generator API request body. So I will assign back to the token request body. So that's it, guys. Now what I will do is simply I will use the request object. By using the request object, and before that I'm using the await keyword followed by request object dot. So simply I'm making the one call called post. So inside the post, so here we have to pass the URL firstly. So let's pass the URL to generate the token. So simply here we have to pass the /auth. So let's pass this particular URL, and after that, so here we have to pass the API request body by using the data object. So here I will say, so simply I will pass the API request body where we have specified inside the put request body JSON file. So simply I will go above here. So just now we have written a statement to read the put request body JSON file. So simply I will take this variable and I'll pass on to the data object. So that's it, guys. So after making the post API call, so we will get the response. So I will assign the API response back to the one constant variable called token response. So that's it, guys. So if I want to read this particular token number, right? Firstly, I need to get the API response body. By using the API response body, I can get the token number. So that's the reason what I will do is, so firstly I will get the API response body by using the await followed by the token response variable dot JSON. So this JSON method will returns me the token API response body, and I will assign back to the one constant variable called token API response body. So by using this variable, I can get the token number simply. So here I'll say token API response body dot, and followed by that simply I will add the key name. So in our case, key name is token. So simply I will add the token here. That's it. Then I will assign back to the one constant variable called token number. So that's it, guys. Now I will print this token number just to make sure that we are making the correct API call. So by using the console.log statement, so here I will say token number is, then simply I will add the token number variable. So I will run this test. Just I will make sure that we are able to generate the token. So once we are able to generate the token, so we can create the put API request. By using that, we can update the resource details in the application server. So let's run the test. And if you see here, guys, So this is the post API response body, and this is the get API details. And after that, so here we are seeing the token number. So we are able to generate the token number successfully. Now let's create a put API request. So before we go ahead and create a put API request, so here I will do a small modification to the JSON file. So this particular put request body, so we have used this particular request body to generate the token. So that's the reason I will rename this file with token request body. So that's it, guys. Now I will go back to the Postman. So let's get the put API details. So here we are going to create the put API request. So this is where we have to pass this particular URL. So we have to pass the URL as /booking followed by the booking ID, and also we have to pass this particular API request body, and also we have to pass the headers. We have to pass content type, and as well as we have to pass the cookie data, and inside the cookie data we have to pass the token number. So let's create the one JSON file. Firstly, I will add the API request body inside the JSON file. So here I'm creating the one JSON file called put underscore request underscore body dot spec dot. Sorry guys. So here I'll say JSON. That's it. So we are creating a JSON file, and inside the JSON file I'm adding the put API request body. That's it. Now let's create a put API request. To create a put API request call, so we have to read this particular put request body. So that's the reason. So I will read that particular request body by using require, and inside the require simply we have to pass the location of the JSON file. So here we have the test data. Inside the test data we have the put request body. That's it. Then I will assign back to the one variable called put request body. So that's it, guys. Now we have the put request body ready. So by using this put request body, so we can create the put API call. So here I'm using the directly request object. So before request object, we have to use the await keyword. Followed by that, we have to use the request object dot. So directly here we can call to the function called put. And inside the put function, we have to pass two parameters. One is URL we have to pass, and second one is we have to pass the headers, and we have to pass the API request body also. So let's copy the URL. So firstly, I'm adding the URL, and here we have to pass the booking ID. So already we have the booking ID in the line number 29. So simply we have to pass this booking ID, that's the BID here. So I will pass the booking ID here. That's it. And I'll put comma. And after that, here we have to pass the two objects. One is headers and second one is API request body. So let's pass the headers first. So here I'll pass the headers object. So for here we have to pass the two key and respective values. One is content hyphen type and second one is cookie. So let's pass the content. So inside the double quotes, we have to specify the key name content hyphen type, and after that we have to specify the value as application slash JSON, and in the similar way we have to pass the cookie as the another key, and we have to pass the respective value. And if you look at this particular respective value, so we have to pass the token equal to, and this is the token number. So already we know how to, we have already generated the token number. So here I'll say token equal to, and I'll put the, so let me remove this double quotes. We have to write this in the single quotation. So that's it. And here I'll put the dollar symbol, and within the floor brackets, so simply I will pass our token number, whatever we have generated earlier. So I'm passing the variable over here. So that's it, guys. So we are done with creating the headers. So if you are having any additional headers, simply you can pass any headers over here. So I will put comma, and we have to pass the API request body as well. So inside the data object. So already we have the API request body in the variable called put request body. So simply I will take this particular variable and I will pass on to the data object. So that's it, guys. So after making the put API request, so we will get the API response also, right? So that's the reason I will assign back to the one variable called put response. That's it. So by using the put response, I can print the all the details. So let's print the firstly details. So I will print the API response body, and after that we will assert the status code as well. So here I will use the await keyword, and after that I will use put response dot json. So this JSON function will returns me the API response body. So that's the reason I will assign back to the one variable called put response body. So that's it. So simply I will print this particular statement by using console.log. So here I'll say console.log, and I will print the put API response body in the console output. So just to make the difference in the console output, whatever we are printing, so I'm writing one simple console.log statement. So this one, what we have written is for the, let me just delete this stuff. I'll put to equal to, and I'll say get API. And in the similar way, I'll add it for the post API as well. So here I'll say to equal to, here I'll say post API, and we are making the get API call after that. Then finally we are making the put API call. So here I'll write it as the put, so that we can differentiate the output properly. So that's it, guys. So we are done with creating the put API call. So let me summarize what we have done so far. So firstly, we have generated the token. So our API request body is present inside the token request body JSON file, and from that, so we are creating the post API call, and once we are having the token API response, so we are saving the token number inside the one of the variable. By using this token variable and the booking ID, so we are creating the put API call to update the booking details. So let me run the test and we will assert the few details. So our test is running now. So let me open the test results. And if you see here, guys, our test is getting passed. So firstly, so this is the details coming from the post API, and we are able to create a booking with first name, last name, and all the details whatever we have added here. And here we have the booking ID as 1872. And after that, so by using the get API, so we are getting all the details whatever we have created the bookings. Then finally, after generating the token number, so by using the put API request, so we are updating the first name and last name. And if you see here the difference, so these particular details are present while creating the booking. The first name is tester stock Cypress, but after updating the details, you can see the first name is Postman by tester stock. And in the similar way, so you can observe the difference between the last name also. So last name is tester stock JavaScript. So after updating the details, so here we can see the last name rest assured by tester stock. So now let's assert the status code for the put API request. So here I'll say validate status code. So here I will use the put API response by using this one. So I can simply assert it. So here I'm using expect keyword. So inside that I'm using the put API response dot status. So this will returns me the API response status code. By using that, simply I'm calling to the another method called to be, and inside that I'm passing the status code. And if you see the put API request, so we are getting the 200 as the status code from the application server. So that's the reason here I'm asserting the 200 as the expected value. Now let's run the test, and our test should get passed because there are no failures as of now. So that's it, guys. And our test is getting passed. Let me open the output also. So our test is getting passed, right? So this is how we can create the put API request in Playwright. So far you have seen how to create get API request, post API request, and also we have discussed how to create put API request in Playwright. In this Playwright API testing tutorial, we are going to see how to create patch API request in Playwright. So firstly, I will discuss the manual scenario, then we will automate it using the Playwright. So here I will navigate to the Postman tool. So firstly, we will create the booking, and in the API response, we will get the booking ID. By using this booking ID, so we are going to update the few details. So by using the put API request, so we are able to update the all the data. In this case, we are passing the full API request body, but in case of patch API request, so we are passing only partial API request body. So firstly, we have to create the booking, and then we have to generate the token. By using the token, so we can update the booking details in the application server. But if you look at the partial update booking API, so we have to pass the token number which we have generated in the previous API, that is a token generator. And also we have to pass the booking ID which we have created in the create booking API. Now let's navigate to the VS Code. We will automate this particular flow now. So firstly, we will create the JSON file where we will mention the partial API request body. So firstly, I will copy this API request body and I will go to the VS Code. So I'm going to create a one simple JSON file under test-data. So here I'm giving the file name as patch underscore request underscore body.json. So that's it. So I will add the API request body here. So that's it, guys. So here, if you want, you can add a few more fields also, but in my case, I'm adding only one field and a respective data. So that's it, guys. We have created the one JSON file and we have added the API request body. Now let's quickly create the one spec file. So here I'm giving the spec file name as patch API request underscore 08 dot spec dot js. So that's it. And here I will go to the one of the API called put API request. Simply I will copy the whole test and I'll paste it inside the patch API request. So firstly, I will update the test name here. So here I'll say create patch API request in Playwright. So that's it. So let me explain you what exactly we are doing in this Playwright test. So firstly, we are creating the booking by using the post API request. And after that, we are validating the status code. And then we are printing the API response details of the create booking. And then in the line number 26, so we are storing the booking ID. And then here we are validating the JSON API response of the create booking. So that's all about the post API. Now next we have the get API call. So in this get API call, simply we are validating, so whatever the booking we have created in this case in the above API. So by using that booking ID, we are validating whether booking details are present in the application server or not. And then, so we are printing the API response body of the get API call. Then finally, we are validating the 200 status code. So this is all about the create a booking, and also we are checking whether booking is present in the application server or not. Then, so here we have written a simple code where we are generating the token by using the post API request. And if you look at the line number 52, so this is where exactly we are storing the token number. Then finally here we are creating the put API request. So we will convert this put API request into the patch API request. So here I'll say patch API And after that, so here I will update the variable name as patch API response, and I will use the same variable in the line number 65. So that's it. And also I will use the same variable name in the line number 69. So that's it, guys. Now, so we have updated the one variable name, and here we have to make the patch API request, right? And also we have to add the URL. So URL is same, guys. There is no change if you look at the Postman also. So this is the partial update booking API, that is the patch API request. And if you look at the URL, so we have the /booking/booking ID. So same URL is present here. And after that, so here we are adding the headers. If you look at the patch API request, so firstly we are passing the content type, and after that we are passing the cookie is equal to the token and the token number. And then, so here we have to pass the patch API request, right? So simply I will remove this part, and right now we have the patch API request body inside the patch request body JSON file. So let's read the API request body now. So simply here we have to use the require, and inside the require we have to add the file location where exactly we have the API request. So simply I will add the file name here, and after that, so here I will give the variable name as patch request body. So that's it. By using this variable, we can create the patch API request. So under the data object, I'm adding the simply patch API request body. So that's it. And if you look at the line number 59 to 65, so this is where we are exactly making the patch API request using Playwright. And then, so by using this patch API response, so here I'm calling to the one method called JSON. So this JSON method will return us the API response body. So that's the reason here I will add the variable name as patch API response body. So simply we are printing the patch API response body by using the console.log statement. And finally, so we are validating the status code as the 200. If you look at the patch API request, so here we are getting the 200 as the status code. So if you want, you can validate the API response as well. So that's all about creating the patch API request using Playwright. Now let's run the API test. So our test is working perfectly fine and it is getting passed. So let's open the output. So firstly, we have created the booking. So this is the post API response body. And then, so we are checking whether booking details are present in the application server by using the get API call. And after that, we are generating the token. By using this token, so we are updating the booking details. So these details we got it from the patch API response body. And if you see your first name, so we have updated only first name. So while creating booking, so we had the first name as tester stock Cypress. After making the patch API request, so we have updated the first name as only tester stock. So like this, you can pass many other fields also, guys, inside this particular JSON file, and those fields will be and respective values will be updated in the booking details in the application server. So this is how you can create the patch API request in Playwright. So far you have seen how to create get API request, post API request, put API request, and also I have discussed how to create patch API request in Playwright. In this Playwright API testing session, so we are going to see how to create delete API request using Playwright. So firstly, we will see the manual scenario, then we will automate it by using the Playwright. So here I will navigate to the Postman tool. So firstly, we are going to create a booking. by using this booking ID from the API response body. So we are going to update the details. To update the details, we have to generate the one token number. So by using this token number, so we are going to update the booking details. And then after that, finally, we are going to delete the booking details from the application server. And if you see here, guys, if you look at the delete API, so this is where we are passing the booking ID in the URL, and in the headers, so we are passing the token number which we have generated in the token generator API, and we are not passing anything in the request body. And after creating the delete API request, we are going to validate status code as 201, and also we are going to validate the created as a text from the API response body. Now let's automate this particular flow by using the Playwright and VS Code. So firstly, here I am going to create a spec file called end-to-end testing, end-to-end underscore testing underscore 09.spec.js. So that's it. So here I'm going to the one of the spec file, and simply I will copy the API request. So that is a API test, so which contains the multiple API request. So firstly, I will update the test name as create delete API request in Playwright. So that's it, guys. Now I will explain you the test, what exactly this test is doing. So firstly, we are creating the booking by using the post API request, and after that, so we are validating the status code, and also we are validating the API response body, and also we are storing the booking ID in the line number 28 in the variable called BID. By using this booking ID, so we are going to check the booking details are present in the application server or not, and also we are going to update the booking details by using this particular booking ID, and also finally we are going to delete the booking ID. So that means all the booking details from the application server. And then so we are making the after making the post API request, so we are making the get API request. So this is where we are checking whether whatever we have created a booking, so that is present in the application server or not by using the booking ID. And also we are validating the status code here. Then we are generating the token by using the post API call, and in the line number 54 we are storing the token number. Then finally we are updating the booking details by using the patch API request. So we are just passing the partial API request body, and we are updating the booking details. Now let's create the delete API request. By using that, we will delete all the booking details by using the booking ID. So here I'm simply adding the console.log statement, and I'm adding the API name as delete API. So that's it. So here I'm using the firstly await keyword, followed by that I'm using the request object. By using request object, so I'm calling to the one method called delete. So inside the delete, we have to pass the firstly URL, and after that we have to pass the headers, right? So let's pass the URL first. So that's it. So I will go to the Postman tool. So I will copy the URL from the delete API request. So I will add the URL here, and here we have to pass the booking ID. So simply I will use the dollar symbol within the flower brackets. Simply I will add the BID, that is the booking ID. And then so here we have to add the headers. If you look at the delete API request, and in the header, so we are passing content type and cookie data. So this is where exactly we are passing the token number. By using this token number, we are able to update the booking details in the application server. So let me add the content type, and also we are passing the token number. by using the cookie field. So simply I'm adding the content type as application slash json, and cookie we are adding the token equal to token number. So that's it, guys. So after making the delete API request, so we will get the API response, right? So I will save the API response in one of the variable called delete API response. So that's it. So by using this delete API response variable, I am going to validate the two details. One is status code, that is 201, and second one is, so we are going to validate the text as created. So firstly here I will use the await keyword followed by that. So here I'm using the expect. So to validate anything, we need to use the expect function. So inside the expect, so simply I'm using the delete API response dot status. So this status function will returns me the status code of the API response. So simply here I'm saying to equal method, and inside that we have to pass the expected status code. In our case, it is a 201 if you look at the API. And now let's assert the created text. So in the similar way, so I'm going to assert the text. So here I'm saying status text. So this particular function is going to return me the text which is displaying in the API response body as a created. So let me copy this text. So we are going to assert this text. So by using the method called to be, and inside this, so I'm simply passing the text as created. So that's it. We are done with creating the delete API request using Playwright. Now let's run the API test and we will validate whether our API is working properly or not. So our test is getting passed if you see here. So let me open the output also. So we have created one booking called 559, and also we are checking whether those details are present or not before deleting the booking, and we have generated the token, and then we have updated the booking details, and then finally so delete API is getting executed. So I will take this booking ID and I'll check it in the application server by using the get booking details. So we have already deleted the booking details. So in this case, so this particular booking should not be there in the application server. And if you see the response, so we are getting the 404, and also we are getting the response as not found because we have deleted the created booking by using the delete API request. So this is how you can create the delete API request using Playwright. In this Playwright tutorial, we are going to see how to generate Allure report in Playwright automation tool. So you need to follow just 5 steps. By following 5 steps, you will be able to generate the Allure report in Playwright automation framework. So I have listed all these 5 steps in the my GitHub repository also. So you can go to the Playwright tutorial full course, and if you scroll down here in this repository, so you will find the readme file, and here I have mentioned how to generate Allure report with Playwright automation tool. So let's see one by one what are the steps you need to follow to generate the Allure report in Playwright. The very first step is we need to install the one plugin called Allure report command line. So in my case, I have already installed it, these two plugins. And the second plugin you need to install, that is the Allure Playwright adapter. So you can go to the command prompt and simply, firstly you can install the npm install --save -dev, and after that Allure command line. So this is the very first package or the plugin you need to install it. And second plugin is npm install --save -dev Allure Playwright. So after installing these two packages. So we need to go to the Playwright configuration file. So step 1 and step 2 is all about the packages installations which are related to the Allure report generation. Now we need to go to the one file called playwright.config.js file. So that is where we have to add the both the reporting. So we want to generate the Allure report and also we want to generate the Playwright test report. So that's the reason. So here I'm adding firstly HTML. It is for generating the Playwright test report, and second one is for the generating the Allure report. So let's add the this particular configuration in the Playwright configuration file. So here I will go to the VS Code and I will open the Playwright configuration file. And if you look at the line number 24, so this is where we have to add the reporter, and inside the reporter we have to pass HTML first parameter and second parameter is Allure-Playwright. So that's it. So that is the basic setup you need to do to generate the Allure report in Playwright automation tool. So let me summarize what exactly this configuration file contains. So in my case, I have done some modifications. If you look at the line number 11 and 12, so we are setting the test execution time as 5 minutes. And after that, we have enabled the parallel testing by passing the fully parallel value as true. And also, if you look at the line number 22, so here I'm passing the 5. So in our case, we want to run the 5 automation test at the same time. That means it is going to launch the 5 browsers at the same time. And then, so it is very important part. So you need to add the reporter and respective values also. And then to add the screenshot and video, and also we need to add the trace information. So if you want to add all these three information, so you need to pass the appropriate value to the video, screenshot and traces. So basically, if you are not adding the proper value here or enabling the video, screenshot or trace, so these information will be not attached to the Allure report. So if you look at the value here, guys, so you can pass the on first retry, retain on failure. So you can pass any of the these three values. But if you are passing off, so you will be not able to see the video is added into the Allure report. So in my case, simply I'm passing the value as on for the video, screenshot and trace information. Because in my case, I want to add all the three information into the Allure report. So if you don't want to attach into the Allure report, simply you can comment that particular parameter in this particular configuration file. So that's a bit about the Playwright configuration file. Now let's look at the next step. Now simply we have to run the Playwright automation test, and after that we have to run one of the command. By using that we can generate the Allure report. So before that we have to run the Playwright automation test. So here I will go to the VS Code and inside the tests folder. So here I'm referring one spec file called group.spec.js. So in this spec file, so I have two groups. First one is smoke testing, which contains two automation tests, and I have the second group called sanity testing. So this contains the three automation tests. And if you look at the test 5, so our first 4 tests will get passed, but I'm intentionally failing the test 5. If you look at the line number 163, so here I'm passing incorrect expected value. So that's the reason test 5 will get failed. So that is the expected result. Now we have the spec file ready. Now let's execute this particular spec file. So here I will open the terminal and simply I will run this spec file by using npx playwright and followed by that test, and after that I will pass the spec file name. So that's it. So if you look at here, so it is running with the 5 workers. That means 5 browsers are opening at the same time. That means 5 automation tests are getting executed at the same time. So that particular value we have added in the Playwright configuration file. So currently test execution is going on. Once the execution is completed, so automatically Playwright test report will be opened. And if you see here, so already report got opened. Before that, I will show you the VS Code results. So one test got failed, that is the expected failure, and 4 tests are passed. So now let's look at the Playwright test report before we generate the Allure test report. And if you see here guys, so total test is 5 and out of them is 4 are passed and 1 got failed. And if I go to the failed test, so here I'm firstly seeing the error information and after that steps are there. So where exactly our test got failed, you can check it here. And here we have the screenshot and we have the traces information. And then at the end, you can see the video section. So it has recorded the test execution. Now let's generate the Allure report. So simply I will press the Control C and here I'll say yes. That's it. Now simply I will go to the my GitHub repository and I will copy the command. So you need to use the command called npx allure serve allure-results. So simply you need to use this particular command. By using this one, we can generate the Allure report. So here I will enter the command and it started generating the Allure report. And if you see here, already Allure report got opened. And if you see the overview of this test report, so we have the total automation test is 5 and out of them, so 4 are passed and 1 is failed. And here also you can see that, so total test, so currently we have only one suit is available, sorry. So total number of suits are 1 and here you can see that how many within this particular suit, how many are passed and how many are failed. So here I will go to the suits section and here you can see that in which browser our automation tests are got executed, and also you can see the spec file name, and followed by that you can see the to section, because as I said we have two groups, one is sanity testing and second one is smoke testing. And if you expand that, so you will be seeing the details of the automation test. So simply you can select any test on the right side, so you will be able to see the details of the automation test, what are the steps it has and where exactly failed. If you look at the test 5, so here you can see that where exactly our test got failed, and also you can see the screenshot also. So you can simply click on this particular screenshot, you can view the screenshot. By seeing this particular screenshot also, you can identify the what is the issue with the web application, or it can be script also sometimes. So you can view the screenshot in the below of the all the steps, and if you come down, so here you can find the video also. So you can basically, so this is the test execution recorded video. If you see here, so what happened in this particular test execution, during this test execution, so all the details you can check out here by seeing the recorded test execution video. And also you can find the trace information. So simply you can click on this one, so you can download the traces information and you can verify all the information how we have done it in the previous tutorial. And also you can find the std out statements. So in our case we are not printing much in the output, so that's the reason you are seeing only one statement here. And so right now only two groups are there guys. So you can try to add multiple groups, and also you can try to add the multiple spec files, and you can generate the Allure report. And if you face any issues, just you can comment in the comment section. I will be responding to your comments immediately. So this is all I'm having for the how to generate Allure report in Playwright automation tool.